My parents sold off the $3,800 custom PC I'd spent years building, all to fund a shopping spree for my sister. They took everything I worked for and expected silence in return. But losing that PC? That was just the trigger. I had a different plan, one that would change everything. And it all started the moment I walked out that door. But let's start at the beginning. I'm 22 now, and building gaming rigs has been my thing for as long as I can remember. It's more than a hobby for me, it's been my obsession since I was a kid. Over the years, I scraped together every dollar I could. I picked up part-time jobs, took on random freelance gigs, and held on tight to every birthday card with cash inside. Eventually, I built what I called my Freedom Rig, a $3,800 beast of a machine that I didn't just use for gaming. I also did freelance graphic design on it, which brought in extra income and helped me sharpen real skills I knew would pay off down the road. Now let me give you a little background on my family. My parents are the type who always think they know what's best. Problem is, their idea of best tends to revolve around my little sister, Kayla. She's 18, and she's always been the star of the show. If you've ever met someone who thinks the universe spins around them, you've basically met Kayla. She lives for designer brands, pricey shoes, and anything trendy. And my parents? They'll do just about anything to keep her happy, even if it means throwing me under the bus. Growing up, it was always obvious who the favorite was. If money was tight, it was my stuff that got cut. I'd hear things like, "You're older, you can handle it," or, "You're a boy, you don't need as much." Eventually, I stopped complaining and just figured I'd earn my own way. I didn't hold a grudge against Kayla, I just stayed in my lane, kept my head down, and chased my own goals. A few months back, on a regular Saturday, I was out with my best buddy, Marcus, the guy I game with the most. We were talking strategies for an upcoming gaming tournament and getting hyped about entering. When I got home, I was ready to jump on my rig and start practicing. But the second I stepped into my room, my heart sank. My desk was bare. The PC, the monitor, my headset, everything was gone. For a moment, I actually thought we'd been robbed. But nothing else in the house looked touched. So I rushed downstairs, and there were my parents, just hanging out in the living room, sipping coffee like it was any normal day. "Hey, where's my computer?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Mom didn't even blink. "Oh, we sold it," she said, like she was talking about a pair of old shoes. I stood there stunned. "Wait, you did what? You sold it? Are you serious?" Dad let out this heavy sigh, acting like I was the one being unreasonable. "Your sister needed new clothes for an event. We didn't have the extra money, and the computer was just sitting there." Just sitting there. My voice was rising. That computer wasn't some toy, I spent years building it. I work on that thing. Mom snapped back, her tone sharp. "Don't talk to us like that. We're your parents. We did what we had to do for the family. Kayla has something important coming up, and you can always save up again." I was floored. Save up again? Do you have any idea how long it took me to afford that PC? What about my freelance work, my deadlines? What exactly is this magical event of Kayla's that's more important than everything I've worked for? Dad, in full "I'm the authority" mode, just brushed me off. Freelancing isn't a real job. You spend more time gaming than working anyway. That one stung. Gaming was a part of it, sure, but that computer was my workspace, my tool, my escape, my investment in myself. And the fact that they couldn't, or wouldn't, see that. It hit like a gut punch. I stormed back up to my room, still fuming. I grabbed my phone and texted Marcus what had happened. His reply came fast. "Bro. That's insane. They didn't even ask you first." "Nope," I wrote back. "Sold it for Kayla's big event. Total joke. She's spoiled, man," Marcus messaged. "You should have hidden the rig." Looking back, maybe I should've. But at that moment, all I could think about was how everything I'd poured my time and effort into was just, gone. And nobody seemed to give a damn. That night, I couldn't let it go. I went to confront Kayla. She was in her room, twirling in front of her full-length mirror in one of her shiny new dresses. "Do you even know what Mom and Dad had to do so you could play dress-up?" I asked, leaning on her doorway. She barely looked at me. "What are you talking about?" "They sold my computer. My $3,800 custom-built rig, gone. All for your designer wardrobe." She just shrugged and kept checking herself out. "So? It's just a computer. You'll build another one." Her apathy hit harder than anything. "That wasn't just a computer, Kayla," I told her, my voice tight. "That was years of saving, working, and piecing everything together. That was my livelihood." She gave me this smug little smirk and shrugged. "Not my problem. I didn't tell them to sell it." Then, as if to defend herself, she added, "Besides, it's not like I made them do it. They're the ones who thought it was a good idea. That's on them, not me." Her words lit a fire in me. "You mentioned it though, didn't you?" I shot back. "You knew exactly what would happen, and you let it. You wanted them to take it." She rolled her eyes like I was being ridiculous. "Oh please. Don't act like I control what Mom and Dad do. If they sold your precious little setup, maybe they just thought it made sense. Not my fault they agreed with me." I just stood there, staring at her like I was seeing a stranger. She paused, then said, "Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your little games, you'd understand what really matters. I've got a reputation to keep up. You're just hiding out in your room all day, playing video games." That was it for me. I turned and walked out before I said something I'd regret. Trying to reason with Kayla was pointless. She didn't get it, and probably never would. She's never had to earn a damn thing. Everything she wanted magically appeared, and my parents were more than happy to keep enabling her. Over the next few days, the air in the house felt thick. Tense. My parents acted like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just bulldozed over something incredibly important to me. Meanwhile, Kayla strutted around in her new outfits, practically glowing with self-satisfaction. And me? I felt like I was going to explode. Every time I thought about how casually they decided to sell off my hard work, my blood started boiling all over again. Marcus kept checking in on me, trying to help me stay grounded. "You gotta do something, man," he said one day. "You can't let them just steamroll you." And he wasn't wrong. That's where I am now. Sitting here, thinking. I want to believe I can let this go, that maybe I'm just being overly sensitive. But deep down, I know this isn't just about a computer. It's about respect. It's about how they treat me. Part of me thinks I should just keep the peace, let it slide, and move on. But another part of me, the louder part, knows that if I don't stand up now, they'll think it's okay to walk all over me forever. The days dragged on after that. I could barely look my parents in the eye without feeling a wave of heat rise up my neck. And every time Kayla passed by, showing off another designer dress or handbag, it felt like she was silently laughing in my face. I avoided everyone as much as I could, camping out in my room with my old laptop, the one I'd stopped using years ago. It was slow, outdated, and barely got the job done. Trying to work on that thing was like trying to bake a cake in a broken toaster. It wasn't just frustrating, it was demoralizing. But Marcus, man, he kept me afloat. He'd call out of the blue, sometimes just to joke around or talk about a new game update. Other times, he'd just send a dumb meme to make me laugh. It helped. One night, while I was venting to him, again, about how messed up everything felt, he said something that stuck with me. "You know what? It's not personal, Dylan. It's strictly business. Except, in your case, they made it personal, and now they're treating it like it's business." He was right. This wasn't just some financial move. This was my family showing me exactly where I ranked in their priorities. That's when it hit me, I had to do something. Not just to get my PC back, but to make them see that they couldn't keep pushing me to the side like I didn't matter. So I started gathering every bit of evidence I could. Receipts for every part I'd bought, photos of the building process, screenshots of freelance payouts, anything that proved that rig was mine and essential to my work. Then I tracked down the person who had bought the PC. They were actually understanding about it, but firm. Sorry, they said, I can't return it unless you pay me back the $1,100 your parents sold it for. And now, well, now I'm just sitting here. Thinking. Part of me wants to just let it all go. The money, the effort, everything. It feels like too much stress for something I might not be able to fix. The idea of going toe-to-toe with my parents again? Honestly, it makes me want to bang my head into a wall. So what do you think? Am I being dramatic? Should I just move on? I honestly didn't think things could get any more complicated, but of course, they did. Like I said before, I was stuck. Part of me wanted to just keep my head down and avoid more conflict. But then Marcus said something that hit home: if you don't stand up for yourself now, they'll never stop. They'll think they can just take whatever they want from you whenever it suits them. He was right. This had gone way beyond the computer. It was about self-respect now. So, I decided to confront them, head on. Dinner seemed like the right time. Everyone would be in the same room, sitting down, no easy exits. I took my seat at the table, staring across at my parents while Kayla was nose-deep in her phone, scrolling like nothing in the world mattered except her feed. Mom was halfway through some story about a neighbor's dog when I cut in. I want my money back, I said, laying a folder on the table. Dad gave me that raised eyebrow look. What money? The $1,100 you got from selling my computer, I said firmly. I paid for that rig with my own cash. It was mine. You had no right to touch it, let alone sell it. Mom let out this long, overdramatic sigh, like I was a toddler throwing a fit. We've already been over this, she said, clearly annoyed. Your sister needed help, and we made a decision, for the family. No, I said sharply. You made a decision for the family, without ever including me. That wasn't a family choice. That was theft. Dad leaned back in his chair, his tone going from calm to threatening in a split second. You better watch how you talk to us, boy. This is our house. Everything under this roof belongs to us, including that computer. I took a breath to keep my voice level, even though I was boiling inside. I pulled out a receipt and held it up for them to see. Actually, that's not true. This shows that I paid for every part with my money. And this, I slid another paper across the table, is a copy of the transaction. You sold it for $1,100. I want that money back. Mom looked like I just told her I was joining a cult. How dare you accuse us of stealing from our own son, she gasped. We did it for Kayla. She's your sister. Family is about sacrifice. Yeah. I said, snapping. Then why am I the only one sacrificing anything? Kayla gets everything she wants without lifting a finger, and I'm just supposed to smile and take it? Not anymore. Either you pay me back, or I'll take this further, legally. Mom's face went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me, I said, locking eyes with her. That's when Kayla finally looked up from her phone. Oh my God, she groaned, rolling her eyes. You're seriously threatening Mom and Dad over a computer? You're actually pathetic. No, I said, turning to her, my voice cold. What's pathetic is that you're perfectly okay with benefiting from someone else's hard work without batting an eye. You knew what they were doing, and you didn't say a word. She shrugged like it was nothing. It's not my fault they decided to sell it. I didn't make them do anything. But you brought it up, I said, my jaw tightening. You knew exactly how they'd react. She gave me that trademark Kayla attitude and said, I only mentioned your computer because you're always whining about being busy with work. I figured you'd appreciate a break. Her tone was calm, casual, like she actually believed she was doing me a favor. A break? I said, my voice rising. Do you even hear yourself? That computer was how I made money. That was my livelihood. She just smiled, totally unfazed. Wow, you're really twisting this to make it about me, huh? You're always going on about how independent you are. I figured you wouldn't mind pitching in for the family for once. Under the table, my hands curled into fists. Pitching in? I echoed. You didn't need a designer wardrobe, Kayla. You just wanted it. Don't act like this was some noble sacrifice. You treated it like a shopping trip. There's a difference, I told her. But Kayla just scoffed. Maybe you're just pissed because I know how to get what I want, and you're too busy sulking to figure it out. Then, with the most smug expression, she added, don't blame me for being better at this than you. I swear, I nearly lost it. I could actually feel my hand twitch, but before I could say another word, Dad slammed his hand down on the table. The sound made all of us jump. Enough, he barked. We'll pay you back. But don't expect anything else from us. You're on your own from now on. I laughed, but it came out bitter. I've been on my own for years, I said. The only difference now is I'm done letting you all walk all over me. The next day, they gave me $1,100 in cash. No apologies, just stiff expressions and a whole lot of resentment. I didn't say a word, I just took the money. It didn't feel like a win, but at least it was a step in the right direction. I contacted the buyer again, and to my surprise, they agreed to sell my PC back to me for the same amount. When I finally picked it up, it felt like I was reclaiming a part of myself. But even with my rig back, I knew things at home would never go back to normal. My parents and Kayla weren't going to suddenly change. And I couldn't keep living in a place where I was constantly treated like I didn't matter. So now I'm facing the big question, what comes next? Honestly, I'm thinking it's time to move out. But I keep wondering, is that smart? Or am I just setting myself up for more stress? After everything that went down, I started seriously thinking through my options. I knew moving out wouldn't be a walk in the park. I didn't exactly have a ton of money saved, and rent around here isn't cheap. But I had my freelance gigs, and I was determined to make it work. I called Marcus. He's been my sounding board through all this, and if anyone would have ideas, it'd be him. The second I told him what I was thinking, he didn't even hesitate. Dude, you have to get out of there, he said. Crash at my place if you need to. Seriously. Thanks, man, I said. But I think I need a space of my own. I've been under their thumb way too long. I need to breathe a little. There was a pause on the line. Then Marcus said, what if you ramp up your freelance stuff? You're good at it, and there's definitely a market. Hell, start streaming again. You used to enjoy it. He had a point. I'd done some streaming in the past, but between work and life, it fell to the side. Now that I had my setup back, and a serious fire under me, it felt like the perfect time to get back into it. That night, I started looking for apartments. My budget was tight, so I focused on small studios and shared rentals. After hours of scrolling, I found a tiny place just a few miles from home. One room, a kitchenette, and a small bathroom. Nothing fancy, but it was affordable and close enough to town that I wouldn't feel cut off. I reached out to the landlord, and we set up a time to meet. Walking into that apartment the next day, something shifted. It was bare, just 4 walls and a window, but it felt like possibility. Like freedom. I signed the lease right then and there. Suddenly, a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying started to lift off my shoulders. The next step. Packing. Quietly. I wasn't planning on making some big dramatic exit, I just didn't want to give my family the chance to talk me out of it or guilt me into staying. So over the next week, I started slowly moving my stuff to Marcus's place, a couple of boxes at a time. I didn't say anything. Just packed, carried, and left. At the same time, I threw myself into freelancing and streaming. I updated my portfolio, hit up old clients, and even posted some ads online. I started getting responses, fast. Within a few days, I had enough freelance work lined up to cover my first month's rent. As the move-out date got closer, I started avoiding my family more and more. Kayla didn't even notice, she was too busy flaunting her newest designer purse on Instagram. But my parents, yeah, they knew something was up. They started with the subtle comments over dinner. "You've been quiet lately," or, "If you're planning anything big, we'd appreciate a heads up." I just gave vague answers and kept packing. Then, 2 nights before I planned to move, I was in my room boxing up the last of my gear when Mom knocked on the door. "Can we talk?" she asked, stepping inside before I could say no. "I don't really have anything to say," I muttered, keeping my eyes on the desk as I shuffled some papers. "Just, hear me out," she said softly, sitting on the edge of my bed like we were about to have some casual heart-to-heart. "You have to understand," Mom began, her voice soft like she was trying to cushion the blow. "We didn't sell your computer to hurt you. We were trying to figure out how to help Kayla, and she mentioned it. Said you didn't use it that much anymore, and that it might be worth something." She looked at me, as if hoping I'd nod along. We thought, maybe it was a smart idea. I turned toward her, my jaw tight. So this was Kayla's suggestion. She sighed, her expression wavering, almost like guilt was finally catching up to her. "Not exactly. But she brought it up, and we thought she had a point. You've always been so independent, we figured you'd understand." Her words made my stomach turn. Kayla had tossed out the idea, just enough to plant the seed, and my parents had jumped at it like it was their own brilliant plan. "Understand?" I said, my voice sharp. "You think I'd understand you selling something I worked for years to build, just so Kayla could play dress up?" Mom flinched, but didn't say anything back. Instead, she quietly stood up and walked out of the room, as if her half-hearted explanation had somehow resolved things. That's always how it went with Kayla. She knew exactly how to play the game, pretend she was innocent, drop a hint, act like it was no big deal, and somehow her whispers turned into my parents' decisions. Before I knew it, it was moving day. I packed the last of my things into the car and left a short note on the kitchen counter. Nothing dramatic, just a few sentences explaining that I needed space, time, and a chance to focus on myself. I knew if I tried to say it in person, they'd guilt me into staying. Marcus met me at the apartment to help unload. As we set up my PC in the corner of the room, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: freedom. That night, I went live on my stream for the first time in months. My viewer count was small, but I didn't care. I was finally in my own space, doing what I loved, on my own terms. So yeah, that's how things have played out lately. I've had this weird, uneasy feeling in the background, but I'm pushing through. At first, I thought leaving would be the final chapter of this whole mess. But, man, I was wrong. Within a day of settling into my new place, I had freelance deadlines to meet and a stream schedule to plan out. But this one thought kept buzzing in my head: do my parents even care that I'm gone? I didn't need their approval, I'd stopped looking for that years ago. But still, I guess a part of me wanted to know if they even noticed. By the afternoon, I got my answer. Mom called. I didn't pick up, so she left a voicemail. "You could have at least told us you were leaving," she said, sounding more annoyed than concerned. "Your father and I are very disappointed. Family sticks together, not runs away." I deleted it before she finished. Then Dad tried calling. I ignored that too. Not long after, the text messages started rolling in. "Mom, you've really hurt your mother. Then, we've always done what we thought was best for you. And then Dad, with the classic, you're being reckless. I put my phone on silent and turned back to my work. I wasn't going to let their emotional manipulation derail me. But then came the message I should have expected, from Kayla. You left. LOL. Guess you couldn't handle it. Anyway, Mom's freaking out, so you might want to call her before she totally loses it. I didn't respond. It was the most Kayla thing she could have said, completely dismissive and missing the point. Instead, I focused on my stream. Surprisingly, I was starting to build a small but supportive audience. People who showed up just to hang out, laugh, and enjoy the content. People who appreciated what I did, who treated me like I mattered. It felt good. The next few weeks were a mix of progress and emotional residue. On one hand, my freelance gigs were flowing steadily, and my viewer count kept ticking up. On the other hand, the texts from my parents never stopped. One day it was guilt. The next, it was anger. You're turning your back on your family, Mom texted. Over and over, they tried to reel me back in, using the same emotional tactics they'd always leaned on. But this time, I wasn't biting. Kayla's apparently upset too. Don't you care about how your actions are affecting us, they said. Kayla, upset. Yeah, right. This is the same girl who barely spoke to me when I lived under their roof, unless she needed something. And now I'm supposed to believe she suddenly gives a damn. I didn't reply to their texts. Just left them on read. Still, the words stuck with me, left a sour feeling I couldn't shake. A few nights later, Marcus came over to hang out, and of course, the topic came up. So, your parents chill out yet? He asked. Nope, I told him. They're still blowing up my phone like I owe them some kind of explanation. Total guilt trip move. You think they'll ever let it go? I shrugged. Doubt it. But I'm not going back. That place wasn't good for me. They don't respect you, he asked. They never did. Probably never will. Marcus gave me this look, like he already knew. Yeah, he said, but, have you actually told them that? That made me pause. He wasn't wrong. I'd been ignoring their messages, sure, but I'd never really spelled out how I felt or why I left. Maybe because deep down, I knew it wouldn't change a damn thing. Still, maybe it was time. Not for them, but for me, to finally say what I needed to say and get it off my chest. The next morning, I sat down with my phone and started typing. Took me a while to get the words just right. But finally, I hit send. I've made up my mind. I'm not coming back, I wrote. This isn't about being selfish, it's about choosing what's healthy for me. I've spent too long feeling like my needs didn't matter, and I just can't keep doing that. I hope you'll understand, but even if you don't, I'm still moving forward. As soon as I sent it, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't expecting a warm, fuzzy reply, and sure enough, I didn't get one. Mom fired back with a long-winded message about how ungrateful I was, and how they'd always focused on Kayla's happiness because she needed more support. Then Dad chimed in, short and cold, "You'll regret this one day." But weirdly, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel angry either. I felt free. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to defend myself or get sucked into another argument. Their words didn't sting the way they used to. I dove into work, poured my energy into my streaming. A few weeks went by like that, quiet, productive. Then, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post from Kayla. A selfie with some overpriced designer purse and a caption that read, "So grateful for my amazing parents who always put family first." I just rolled my eyes and kept scrolling. I wasn't about to get pulled into her little fantasy world. That was her business now, not mine. A couple days later, I ran into one of our old family friends at a coffee shop. "Heard you moved out," they said, raising an eyebrow. Your parents are having a hard time. They've been reaching out to folks for help. I raised an eyebrow right back. Help? What kind of help? They've overextended themselves, they said. Buying a bunch of stuff for Kayla. I think they figured you'd still be there to help cover the bills. I took a sip of my coffee and said, that's unfortunate. And it was. For them. Not for me. Truth is, I was finally doing okay. That chat with the family friend, it kind of confirmed everything I'd been trying to ignore for years. My parents had spent so long bending over backward for Kayla, chasing her happiness, that they didn't think twice about burning through our family's finances. Now they were facing the fallout. Meanwhile, I was out here figuring out how to stand on my own 2 feet. And I wasn't about to let their poor decisions drag me back into their chaos. But that didn't stop the guilt trip messages from coming in. Mom's texts got more desperate. We're struggling, and you just left us to handle this alone. Then Dad hit me with his favorite line, if you were a good son, you'd help your family when they need you most. A good son? Funny how they like to throw that around. This from a man who never once acknowledged how hard I worked, let alone respected me for it. And Kayla? Radio silence. She didn't call. Didn't text. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. Kayla was probably just sitting back, letting our parents do all the talking, waiting for me to fold like always. Then one day, Marcus stopped by again with this grin like he was holding onto something juicy. Guess who I ran into at the store today, he said as we settled in. I already had a hunch. Who? Your mom, he said, chuckling. She basically ambushed me by the frozen pizzas and launched into this whole monologue about how you've abandoned them. Oh, and apparently I'm a bad influence. I guess that's me now. I let out a tired laugh and rolled my eyes. Figures. What did you say? I told her you're doing well, and maybe if they'd treated you with more respect, you wouldn't have felt the need to leave, Marcus said, smirking. She didn't love that answer. I laughed again, but deep down it hit a nerve, not because of what Mom said. I'd grown numb to her dramatics. What stung was the fact that they still didn't get it. It wasn't about missing me, it was about losing their grip on me. A few days later, I got another text from Mom. This one had a different tone. Your sister's birthday is coming up. We'd like you to come home for dinner. It would mean a lot to her. I just stared at it for a while. A part of me wanted to hope maybe this was a peace offering. But I knew better. It wasn't about making things right. It was about saving face. They wanted to stage a picture-perfect dinner so they could pretend we were one big happy family again. I showed Marcus the message. Don't do it, man, he said, shaking his head. They'll just suck you right back into their drama. I know, I said with a sigh. But if I skip it, it'll just give them more fuel to paint me as the villain. Who cares what story they spin? Marcus shot back. You're not living your life to please them anymore. You don't owe them anything. He was right. I knew it. But saying no to my family, even after everything, was still harder than I wanted to admit. So I did something I hadn't done since I left. I called Mom. She answered with that overly sweet voice she puts on when she wants something. Oh honey, it's so good to hear from you. Hey, Mom, I said, trying to keep things neutral. I got your message about Kayla's birthday. Yes. We're just doing a nice dinner, just family, she said quickly. Kayla would love it if you were there. I don't think I can come, I said, keeping my voice steady. I've got a lot going on with work right now. And honestly, I don't think it's a good idea. She went quiet for a moment. Then she came in hard with the guilt. You're really going to let your sister down like this? After all we've done for you? There it was, right on cue. Mom, this isn't about Kayla, I told her. This is about how every time I try to have a relationship with you guys, it feels completely one-sided. I'm not coming because I'm tired of pretending things are okay when they're not. She didn't take it well. Fine, she snapped. If you want to throw your family away, that's your decision. But don't come crying to us when you realize what you've lost. That was it. The breaking point. Mom, I've spent my entire life trying to earn your approval, and it's never once been enough. So no, I'm not throwing my family away. I'm finally choosing myself. I hung up before she could say anything else. My hands were shaking, but it felt like I just cut a rope that had been dragging behind me for years. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't keep living like that. After that call, I blocked both Mom and Dad. It wasn't easy. But it was the only way to get some peace. Their constant texts and calls weren't helping, they were just keeping me stuck in a place I'd already outgrown. Kayla never reached out, not even once. And honestly, that made things simpler. With the family drama finally out of the way, I could fully focus on my own life, my work and my streaming. One night during a stream, someone in the chat asked, "What made you start streaming?" I hesitated for a second. I hadn't talked publicly about my family situation. It always felt too personal. But then I figured, why not? I started because I love doing this, I said. But also, I wanted to prove to myself that I could create something on my own. Something real. Without anyone dragging me down. The chat lit up with support, messages like, "Much respect," and, "You're an inspiration, bro." And honestly, it felt amazing. Not just because they liked the stream, but because they saw me. The full picture. As time passed, weeks turning into months, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I still didn't want a relationship with my parents or Kayla, but I wasn't sitting around stewing about it either. Cutting ties had finally given me the space to breathe. And for the first time, I felt genuinely free. One afternoon, Marcus and I were chilling, and he asked, "You think they'll ever say sorry?" I shrugged. Probably not. But you know what? I don't need them to. I was finally living life on my own terms, and that was enough. Still is. Now, I'm building something that reflects who I really am. My hard work's recognized, my passion means something, and I'm surrounded by people who get it. And if you're reading this, going through something similar, just know this, you don't have to stay where you're not respected. You deserve better. Walking away isn't quitting. It's choosing yourself.